How we doing, everybody? It's your guy Wardy here, and as you can see, I'm smiling cheek to cheek. And in case you're saying to yourself, Wardy, why exactly is that? Why are you happy today? That's because on this Mets off day, at the time of the video dropping, July 7th, 2025, we have so much key reporting to break down that I really do not want to waste any time. There have been significant reports regarding this Mets team that have dropped over the past 24, 48 to 72 hours. I've pretty much been brushed under the rug because of the Subway Series happening there on 4th of July weekend. The Mets took 2 out of 3 games. We love to see that. If you want to know more of my initial thoughts on the Mets winning that series, make sure to check out our previous post-game coverage on the platform, and thank you kindly for doing exactly that, because today we're going to begin the segment by getting into the latest trade front regarding this Mets team, as they have been actively linked to many players that we have seen, whether it's because they make sense for the club or because there's actual reporting. Well, what if I told you that David Stearns, who's on the prowl, on the hunt right now to land starting pitching from now up until the MLB trade deadline, is currently targeting a starter that we've actually linked to the Mets multiple times, not just over the past month, but over the past 2 years, mind you, and that is Mr. Mitch Keller of the Pittsburgh Pirates. We're going to get into the latest reporting there, where it stems from, how credible it is, and it's beyond credible. I'm just going to say that right now. The current negotiation, if at all, going on between the Mets and the Pirates. What would it take to actually acquire the young right-hander, and ultimately, why would the Mets be going out of their way to land Mitch Keller? What do you need to know about his game? And everything in between is what we're going to break down in those active trade talks. From there, we're going to get into more starters, but this time on the farm. Brandon Sproat and Tong, two absolute studs that we've seen in the minor leagues. We're going to get into their latest outings, how dominant they have been, and when, if at all, we can see these guys at the major league level this season. We're also going to get into some very important news regarding Senga, Manaea, and Jesse Winker, as they are all expected to return sooner rather than later for this Mets team. When exactly are they going to return? How are they faring in their rehabs is what we're going to break down. And the same thing can be said there with Raley, the dominant southpaw of a reliever. We cannot wait to see Raley back in this Mets bullpen. The big question now is, when exactly is it going to be? But don't worry, we have the answers right here to break down. We also have more to break down on the prospect front, as Elian Pena, the largest signing in the Mets IFA pool team history over the past year, has really been breaking out big time in the DSL league that we're going to get into shortly. Then a whole lot more Mets land to break down, everybody. So sit back, relax, and get yourself ready for the ride, which is our latest Mets breakdown here. Thank you guys kindly for hitting that like and subscribe on your way, and it's greatly appreciated. And shout out to our amazing sponsors that make this happen at BetUS, that have you covered on the sports betting and casino front. Make sure you guys do it responsibly. SeatGeek, that has you covered for 10% off your next ticket purchase if you utilize our promo code WARDY10, link down below in the description. Moo, the official trading platform of the New York Mets, and more on them later on the show, folks. But first, let's hear a quick word from myself regarding a very exciting event that we have just a couple weeks away now. They're at Citi Field. Listen up, everybody. It's Wardy here, and as you can see, we are at gorgeous Citi Field, and folks, you can get the ultimate, the prime experience with your guy Wardy at our first ever official Wardy Day. August 1st, Mets San Francisco Giants there for the evening game. The day after the MLB trade deadline, you, your friends, your loved ones, select Mets fans will get the ultimate experience with your guy Wardy. Not only are we going to hang out at the ball game together, but folks, look at the seating. We're going to be live here in the left field lounge. You guys will be able to chop it up with your guy Wardy. We're going to be debating as to who's the best pitcher of the rotation outside of Senga. We're going to be talking about who's the next best prospect to get called up. How do we feel about the trade deadline acquisitions? And guys, as you get back up here then, we are going to be giving you a $18 drink voucher, and with that drink voucher, you guys are going to be able to hit up the bars that we have right outside of here. So easy, so accessible. Again, prime seating, a truly fantastic experience. Our first ever Wardy Day here at Citi Field, guys, where you will get a chance to hang out with your guy Wardy. And the best part too, not only is it this amazing lounge in left field that you guys will hang out with me, but we're going to be on the field, pre-game access there for a group photo op. So I hope to see you, all you amazing Mets fans there. Click the link if you guys haven't already there to check out our available tickets, and let's go Mets. And not only are we going to be sitting here throughout the course of the ball game, you guys can also check out the seats that we have access to all here in the bar area here, right at the Milagro, where you guys can utilize your $18 drink voucher. Again, this is going to be at Wardy Day, August 1st, 2025. Oh wait, yeah, almost forgot. It's also fireworks night. Bang! Hope to see you guys there. All right, folks, so there you have it. If you guys want to purchase your Wardy Day tickets today, we have a link down below the description for you guys to check out, and thank you so much for doing so. This is the first of many events we're going to be doing at Citi Field together, not just necessarily this season, but in the years going forward as well. So excited to make that happen, and that's an understatement in itself, guys. But without further ado, let's get into these topics right away, and let's waste no more time. Let's begin with the hot button topic that you probably want to actually start today's conversation with, but I do also have to say that before we break down that specifically, I do just want to make a brief mention here of what happened with the Mets and their all-star selections, because as we all know, it was announced this past night who is going to the all-star game to represent this New York Metropolitan team outside of Francisco Lindor leading the charge as an all-star game starter, finally long overdue there, representing the New York Mets there out of the National League, and that was all thanks to fan voting in part 2. But when it comes to reserves especially, that is not fan voting, that is up to the league and their voting system and everything that they do there. And here, folks, we see the following. Edwin Diaz is in fact headed into the 2025 MLB All-Star Game, deservedly so. Diaz, as we know, with a sub-2 ERA on the season, has been the most nails closer that you could possibly ask for out of the National League this season. Seriously, name me this amount of closers on your hand that are better than Edwin Diaz this season. You're not going to be able to do so. Out of the National League especially, yeah, good luck. I mean, even with the exceptions of the Josh Haders, the Aroldis Chapmans, etc., they're out of the American League, there really aren't many closers out here this season consistently dominating as well as what Edwin Diaz is doing for the New York Mets this season. And to say that's amazing also in itself is an understatement, because we have been dying to get Edwin Diaz back to more of the 2022 Edwin, and he is all the way back. Every single time they comes in for a save situation, you have the utmost confidence that he's going to be nails for this team, at least as of now. And Edwin wasn't the only one, as we also saw there, the polar bear, rightfully so, Pete Alonso, and not going for the home run derby this time. I'd like to make that clear. Alonso's going because obviously he's deserving to be in there. He's had a greater season than Freddie Freeman at this point. Alonso's been the most clutch hitter for the Mets in scoring position, batting well over 300 runners on base in scoring position this season. He obviously has north of 1,000 OPS still. He has north of a 300 average. He has been absolutely fantastic all season long for this Mets team. Where would the Mets be without Pete Alonso this season? They would be nowhere close to where they currently are, just a game and a half out of first for the Philadelphia Phillies there out of the National League East. But when we saw Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso be anointed as the all-star reserves, that in itself was fantastic. But you mean to tell me that somehow, some way, Juan Soto doesn't find himself in this conversation? How does that happen, everybody? Because not only has Juan Soto dominated that we've seen since the end of May, he's had a 1,200 OPS since then. Kind of a big deal, everybody. But look at the following. Look at this crazy statistic. Shout out to Greg Harvey here between the Nums on X, which states the following. Only 7 players in MLB history have recorded at least 20 home runs, 70 walks, 15 doubles, and 10 stolen bags prior to the All-Star break in a season. Juan Soto would be the only one not to make an All-Star game. So yeah, to say Juan Soto as an All-Star snub is... I think there's so many other ways that we can label this other than the fact that it's an absolute joke, right? I mean, we always joke about the fact that the All-Star game is, a shell of what it used to be, especially with the fan voting. There's pros and cons that go in hand. We don't love it when fans are voting in players that aren't deserving to be in there just because they have larger fan bases over small market teams with great players. But we also don't love it when the MLB is obviously the ones that are handling the reserves, and they get this so unbelievably wrong. I mean, say what you will about Juan Soto's underwhelming start to his Mets tenure. What he has done this past month and a half alone should easily have him slot in there at minimum as a reserve. It's nothing short of an absolute joke by the league that he's not taking part in it. But again, when it comes to the MLB and maybe not doing things right, it sounds like a day that ends in Y when it comes to these decisions, as well as separately when we talk about Rollins' Gold Glove. Remember when Juan Soto was a Gold Glove finalist for the Padres a couple years ago when he was in the bottom 5% in outs above average defensively out of all qualified outfielders? I mean, that just gives you a great idea as to how much these things are flawed and skewed when the voting happens, not just for Gold Glove, Silver Slugger, but now in the case of the All-Star game. But that is what Wardy has to say about that, folks, because now let's get into the reporting that has dropped over the past couple of days. Again, only if you guys have been living under a rock do you not know about this, but again, maybe some of you guys have been living under a rock, and that's okay, that's the case. And as you guys can see here from Noah Hiles, he came out with a post over the past 2 or 3 days there. He does a great job there for Pittsburgh and the Post-Gazette over there. And as you guys can see, to be clear, I just reported that the Mets are interested in Keller. No return packages were mentioned in my story. Now, the reason why I'm starting the conversation with this is for a great reason. Andrew Filipponi on X, that other account that you guys see, many of you guys ran with it that I saw the past couple days and said, oh no, Ronnie Mauricio is going to get traded. And while Ronnie may very well be active in trade talks from now up until the deadline because he's a hot commodity and now he's starting to swing the bat well. And yes, folks, it might pain you to hear the reality that one of Ronnie Mauricio, Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, Luis Angel Acuna, at minimum one of them is pretty much inevitably going to be dealt by this Mets team. With all of them having little to no options left there to be sent to the minor leagues, and with them not getting any younger and having an abundance of infield options, the Mets simply are not going to hold on to all these players, knowing that some of them don't fit for the roster, others can blossom elsewhere, and there will be teams seeking said players. But the idea that Ronnie Mauricio is a part of this trade negotiation is simply incorrect. And Andrew Filipponi has been notorious for getting things wrong for Pittsburgh-wide sports for a number of years. And that's why I have no problem going on this quick tangent to call the schmuck out, because he has been nothing short of schmuck. Whether it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Pittsburgh Pirates, the Pittsburgh Penguins, every major sport in Pittsburgh, Buddy acts like he has and on the know when he doesn't, because he went on to say the hot rumors the Mets player to be traded in that package would be Ryan Mauricio, when mind you that rumor was started by he himself. No one else. It was certainly led by him. That's why you had Noah Hiles, who was the first man to initially come out with this reporting and what was a great piece I'll have linked down below regarding the Pittsburgh Pirates and what they plan to do from now up until the traded line with their active negotiations. Among other things, he had to reaffirm that that's inaccurate, everybody. So I just want to clarify that before we get into more on Noah's reporting here, because Noah's reporting stems from this article that he dropped just, again, back on July 5th. So just 2 days ago. And this was not just regarding Dennis Santana and David Bednar, who, mind you, I would not be opposed to either of those guys in this Mets bullpen, so don't be surprised if they find themselves linked to them sooner rather than later. We've broken down David Bednar in our top 10 Mets trade target video over this past month as he fit for this team, and I think that still very much holds true. The Mets can get him at a reasonable price. Dennis Santana, we remember him very well during his time with the Mets, but he wasn't all that great. Santana, though, is having a revelation of a season for the Pittsburgh Pirates a bit, and he looks like a hot commodity too. Specifically, the Philadelphia Phillies are heavily in the market for both Bednar and Santana. They are in desperate need of bullpen help, as are the Mets, but they also need rotation help, unlike the Philadelphia Phillies with their deep rotation. So that is where Mitch Keller comes into play, because as Noah goes on to break down this article, everybody, he does state that over this past week, the Mets have in fact contacted the Pittsburgh Pirates regarding, yes, that being a Mitch Keller. And this goes back to just this past Friday. So this is not long ago, everybody. This is recent. I'm really happy that this happened because, one, if you guys have been following the platform, then you know very well I have been beating the Mitch Keller drum for at least 2 seasons now, at least 2.5. Not long after Mitch Keller drilled Starling Marte in the hand in that series in Pittsburgh in 2022 that derailed them towards the end of the season, including their series against the Atlanta Braves because they didn't have Marte healthy. Mitch Keller's been living rent-free in my head since then. But Mitch Keller's not only lived in my head rent-free as a fan that despises him, but one just looking at the pitcher as a whole, who is this pitcher? He's a quality pitcher, and he makes endless sense for this Mets team. He actually makes almost too much sense for this Mets team, so maybe that's why it won't happen in the end. But when you talk about a guy that makes sense to give up some key assets, knowing that he's not a clear rental, that's where Mitch Keller falls in this perfect niche of a possibility for this Mets team. Mitch Keller this season, as you guys see from the stats down below, 18 games, 106.1 innings, was 3.64 ERA, a 3.94 expected ERA, a 3.24 FIP, just over 4 SI ERA, and just over 1.18 on the whip. 84 strikeouts. Don't love the K per 9, but he's not known for being an overly dominant strikeout per 9 pitcher, as Keller is really good on commanding the strike zone. Keller actually gives me similar vibes to Jameson Taillon in the sense that he won't give you a crazy K to walk ratio because he doesn't strike out guys at a high rate. However, he commands the zone beautifully with his 2.2 flat walks per 9 so far this season. So why are the Mets in the market for Mitch Keller? It's a great question. The simple answer is we need arms, and we need arms that could actually impact us now and in the future. And Mitch Keller is this perfect blend of a guy that's had great success the past couple years with the Pirates, eating innings plenty. This is easily a Mitch Keller that could find himself pushing north of 200 innings each season as long as he's healthy. That's what he's been doing to a degree with the Pirates. And then you add in the fact that he's just a perfect middle of the rotation type starter. I mean, when I think of guys that make sense for this Mets team from now up until the MLB trade deadline, especially if you have to give up assets, there are a few that I think check off more boxes than Mitch Keller. Because one, he's not going to cost you the complete world because he's not an ace caliber starter, at least yet. That's before Jeremy Hefner, Desi Driscoll, and Eric Yeagers, everyone in the Mets pitching lab can get their hands on him. So that's where I'm further excited on the potential here. But look look at 3.5 or just over a 3.5-year race so far this season is nothing to scoff at whatsoever. And he's on a 4-year, $71 million contract. That too is notable because the Pirates love nothing more than a shed salary, meaning that the Mets could probably luck out at least slightly here by getting Keller maybe at a slight discount because at least of that contract. Because if you're the Pirates, you're trading Mitch Keller for one of two reasons. It is A, to maximize his trade value, or B, because you want a salary dump. And I think the Pirates are in the middle when it comes to this because they know Keller has obvious trade value from now until the deadline. There could be a bidding war for him, including the Mets and other teams. But then you also know that Keller, while he has trade value, is on the contract that at $71 million total doesn't seem like much, but for the Pirates, that is more than enough because we know Nutting, one of the biggest schmucks of an owner in baseball, does not want to spend the dollars for his team at all consistently. So the idea of shedding north of a $100 million contract is something that they're not going to be opposed to at any day of the week whatsoever. And in the case of the Mets, if that is truly where Keller more falls in the category of, if it's a balance between his value and also eating most of his contract, that alone will help the Mets in potential return for what you'd have to give up to get him. Now you're probably wondering, asking yourself and saying to me, Wardy, what is it going to take to get Mitch Keller? Because I like Mitch Keller, but I don't necessarily want to give up endless top prospects for him. And I don't blame you because when you look at not only Keller, but some other starters that may be available from now until the deadline, there could be ones of more quality, that more immediate impact. I'm not saying you're wrong. And as we see from Keller's baseball savant numbers right now, he's in the 90th percentile in pitching run value, 93rd in fastball run value, 88th in breaking run value, and 19th in off-speed run value. But that's okay because he's not known for his off-speed stuff. Very underwhelming when you look at all the expected numbers here, but then you look at the walk rate, 83rd percentile, 70th in barrel percent, so he's not getting hit all that hard. Hard hit percentage is 31 percentile, so I should clarify that, but he's still 71st in ground ball percentage, and the Mets know, obviously, when they can get the best out of these pitchers to really induce those ground ball outs. And when I think of this infield work, outside of what happens on the hot corner, when it's Vientos there, when it's Beatty there, I have certainty of defense, as I do with Lindor at short, and then obviously Alonso and whoever's playing second is going to be fine for the most part, whether it's going to be Jeff, Ronnie, or whoever is in said spot. So I have confidence in the Mets for the most part in their infield handling the kind of pitcher that Mitch Keller is, and he has the entire array of a 6-pitch mix. And most notably, he has 3 of the 4 S's. And in case you guys don't follow the platform, the 4 S's are important. This is what the Mets pitching lab tends to love with what they've done and with their recent acquisitions of pitchers over the past year and a half especially. It is sweepers, sliders, splitters, and sinkers. If you have any of those pitches, odds are the Mets certainly like what you have to offer. And good news, guys, Mitch Keller has 3 of the 4. He has a 4-seam fastball sitting right around 94, and he throws that 35% of the time. He has an 18% of the arsenal as a sweeper, sitting right around 82. The slider at 16%, sitting right around 87. The sinker at 16% as well, sitting right around 93. The curveball 8%, sitting right around 78, and the changeup at 89% there, at 7%, sitting right around 89. So again, a nice array of pitches is what you get there, Mitch Keller. And as we take a little sneak peek through Fangraphs, everybody, his K to walk ratio has fluctuated, right? He was at almost a 10K per 9 and just under 200 innings in 2023, which was a very strong season. Had a 4.2 ERA, but Buddy was a workhorse, and we would take that in a rotation any and every day of the week going back to that 2023 season. Seriously. Then we see in 2024, 178 innings. The K per 9 goes down by a full strikeout, and the walk rate stays right around the same. So not a big deal for the most part because he has pretty much the same exact expected numbers. Then we see this season, the K to walk ratio is smaller than years prior. I mean, in 2022, and 160 innings is last time that he was sub 8K per 9, but he's still being, if not more effective than he ever has been in his career. So even though Keller's not going to be striking out guys at a great rate, he's not walking guys at an alarming rate to tell you, we should have our hands off this guy. So now it is, what do you have to give up for someone like Mitch Keller? What do you have to do to get a deal done for someone like the veteran young right-hander? And what you're going to have to do, everybody, is you absolutely are inevitably going to have to give up one of those infielders I just told you. It's really hard not to see a role where the Mets trade for a quality starter that has multiple years of control without giving up one of the Beattys, one of the Vientoses, one of the Mauricios, one of the Acuñas, or someone else there in the farm, obviously, that could be had. Obviously, I don't want to see the Mets trade a Jet Williams for someone like Mitch Keller. However, I can see I'm fully on board with them trading one of those infielders we just talked about and other assets as well in the farm, somewhat somewhat MLB ready type prospects for this Pirates team that they could find themselves having interest in. The Pirates could also have an interest in the Mets' abundance of pitching when, mind you, heading into the deadline. Now, it's been widely reported that the Mets are more than comfortable to trade away some of their pitching prospects because they have an abundance right now. Not only do you have Noah McLean, Brandon Sproat, and Jonah Tong leading the charge, but then you got guys like Zach Thornton, the crafty southpaw, Jack Weniger that we're going to break down shortly in this video, who dominated yet again in his latest outing. There are so many different arms to choose from the Mets farm. I can probably tell you right now that there is a contingent of right around 10, from starters to relievers, that just look like that they have immense upside for this team, but the Mets aren't opposed to trading some of these guys away because they have such an abundance of them right now. And that's great, thanks to their great drafting and scouting that they have done over the past couple seasons. So if you're going to have to give up some prospects outside of the top 3 and the top pitchers in the ton, and the Sproat and the McLean of the world, maybe you have to consider one of those for the immediate there in Keller. I would not like that to be the case. However, I can understand maybe why the Pirates would be barking up that tree. Either way, folks, is Mitch Keller going to cost you an arm and a leg to the same degree as some other key guys available at the deadline? No, not necessarily, but he is going to cost you something. So be on the lookout as the Mets continue these likely negotiations here with the Pittsburgh Pirates. And I'm just really happy to say that this is one of many players that we talk about on the platform that make a lot of sense for this team. Like, almost too much sense, as I mentioned. The reason why we've been beating this Mitch Keller drum on the platform before he's been reportedly connected to the Mets is because he checked off the boxes of a Pirates team that's in a full sell mode outside of Skeens. They even have O'Neal Cruz available because Cruz obviously has a lack of effort when it comes to when he plays, but when he's giving you max effort, he's electric. And I think he'd be best in a scenery outside of small market PNC Park there in Pittsburgh. As pretty as it is there, players don't really love to play in Pittsburgh for the sake of outside of actually just playing because they love the city and the fans. Beyond that, there isn't a whole lot to be desired on their lack of winning ways, which it will continue yet again this season. But Mitch Keller, everybody, I want to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you for or against a Mitch Keller trade? And ultimately, what do you think it'll take to land someone like him? I'd love to hear from you guys, and thank you kindly for exactly that, because Mitch Keller is far from the last of the conversation that we have to get into today, everybody. But he was certainly one of the most important topics, if not the most important topic that we had to highlight today. So that's what you got there from Mitch Keller, everybody. So now let's continue this discussion and let's get into more on the prospect end, because like I said, we have some awesome updates regarding Kodai Senga, Jesse Winker, and Manaea that we're going to get into in just a hot second. But before we do, everybody, let's also check out what's happening in the farm, because if the Mets are going to consider trading away pitching prospects, you have to hope that they don't really try to trade away at least the following, and here's why. Beginning here, everybody, let's take a quick look at what we're getting in Mr. Yes, Brandon Sproat, because Brandon Sproat has been fantastic. Over Brandon Sproat's last 2 starts, everybody, the guy has been dominant. He has pitched 11 scoreless innings over that time, including 17 strikeouts. And the most notable thing about what Brandon Sproat is doing, including his latest start back on 4th of July, going 5 shutty, when we would have loved Brandon Sproat potentially starting the series finale game this past day against the Yankees instead of doing a full bullpen game. But again, that came and went and no longer means anything. Brandon Sproat, however, means something to me, guys. He's been looking really good. The same Brandon Sproat who's been sitting right around a 5 to 6+ ERA and all of AAA from being moved up there towards the end of last season to the first half of this season. Now Sproat over his past 2 starts has been dominant, and folks, there's a correlation. A couple of things to bear in mind. One, Sproat is finally starting to tap into the tank, meaning that he is not pitching like he's scared nearly as much anymore. We're getting more confidence out of Sproat at the Syracuse level. He's touching the high 90s, getting into the triple digits now. He's really starting to rear back and not have any restrictions like he previously did. Before, Sproat looked like a guy that was too concerned about doing things wrong, which is what led him to do things more wrong. Now Sproat looks like a guy that is really ramping up with the expectation that he may impact this Mets team sooner rather than later. And when you think of Sproat, Tong, and McLean, Brandon probably is the likely of the 3 to get the call first because he's had the most seasoning at the minor league level. What David Stearns and what the Mets have been praying for is get Sproat to get consistency down at the AAA level. And the most notable thing with that question is that Brandon Sproat's most dominant starts in AAA and his back-to-back starts, mind you, the most impressive ones yet, are both courtesy of Francisco Alvarez catching him. That in itself cannot be understated, everybody. Alvy caught him in his first game when he went 6 shutty with 10+ Ks there, or not 10+ Ks, but he was dominant. And now we get Brandon Sproat here in his latest outing, 5 shutty with 8 strikeouts, 14 total over his last 2 outings, guys. That is what you love to see. Not only did Alvarez call great games for him, obviously, and gave him great comfortability, but you can tell that his pitching staff overall is really happy to be working with Alvarez there and the minor minor leagues and are getting the best out of him. You have to hope that Alvarez, too, is getting the best out of himself as of late. As we know, he hit a home run. For those that are unaware, Alvarez hit his 4th AAA home run there since being sent down over the past couple weeks by the Mets just a couple of days ago during this holiday weekend. So Alvy's bat has looked great there. We've seen more power in that swing. Eating meatballs up for breakfast as well, and hopefully defensively taking the right steps in the right direction and getting back to this major league team sooner rather than later. But I definitely want to hear from you guys. What has been not only your excitement level in Brandon Sproat over his past couple outings, but secondly, when do you hope to see this man up at the major league level? Because mind you, Brandon Sproat is turning 25 before we know it. I don't know how much more we have to wait for this guy to get a look at the major league level. Do we have to wait until he's 26, 27 years of age? I think that would be foolish on the Mets end to do so. Give Brandon Sproat a look. Be willing to eat that first year of his contract. It's okay if the Mets do not have club control to the absolute best that they want with these young pitchers, because you know what, you need to find what you have in these guys sooner rather than later, and if they are ready for the bigs, give them the call to the bigs. We know David Stearns doesn't want to call up any of these guys there on a spot start, but if they can prove themselves over a multi-start outing, then that's where we're talking. So Brandon Sproat, we will see what the future is for him, everybody, but right now it's looking bright after having his 2 sharpest starts in the minor leagues at this point for AAA Syracuse over his past back-to-back outings. Now guys, going on from talking about Brandon Sproat, let's get into another oh-so-dominant pitcher in the Mets minor leagues, one that I've been nothing short of obsessed with all season long, and that is the great, the one, the only Mr. Jonathan. Guys, appreciate the dominance that is Jonathan, because he is unreal. Not only did Jonathan win Player of the Month for the 2nd time that we saw there in AA, when, mind you, there's been no other player in Mets history that has won that award more than once in the same league in a season, the way that Jonathan was just announced back on, I believe, July 3rd is when they officially announced it for him. But Tong, guys, he had 10 strikeouts in this outing, as you guys can see. 2 earned runs, which is honestly kind of uncharacteristic for Tong, because usually Buddy has a scoreless outing and gives up at most 1 earned run. That's why his ERA just jumped to a whopping 1.83. But all jokes aside, guys, Jonathan looks unbelievably good. He's done everything at the minor league level. There is literally nothing, and I mean nothing, else for this man to prove there at AA before getting the call to AAA. And then before you know it, how long is he going to be there before he's actually at the major league level? I mean, Jonathan has been jaw-dropping from start to finish all year long, but the most impressive thing about him has been his ability to attack not just solid players that we've seen in AA, but he has literally been beating up on the best hitters that he's faced, former top first-round picks out of AA, because many believe that AA is the hardest league to play in as a prospect, especially a pitcher, because you're facing all the heralded prospects, because a lot of those guys don't even go to AAA. They just get moved all the way up from AA to the bigs because they're that good. AAA, if anything, might hurt their development, if anything, which is why when we see a guy like Tong dominate as consistent as he's been with the Rumble Ponies, what else does David Stearns need to see to warrant moving him up? And I don't really think he needs to see anything else, everybody. I think the Mets are just kind of pondering what they want to do with Tong, because mind you, Jonah is not on the 40-man currently, and Tong is also Rule 5 eligible at the end of the season. The Mets need to make sure Jonathan's protected, right? All the more reason to get this man activated sooner rather than later. So for all we know, guys, maybe Jonathan does get the call for this Mets team. Maybe he somehow, some way is considered over Brandon Sproat and Nolan McClain. I'm not going to hold my breath to it, but at the same time, I have no true clue what David Stearns envisions as to which of those 3 prospects in particular will get the call first and why. And it's really hard to justify why this guy is still in AA right now before even being considered for a call-up. So that is what you're getting right now, Jonathan. Just pure dominance right now that we have been consistently getting at the major league level, guys. So I want to hear from you guys, not major league level, at the AA level. So I certainly want to hear from you guys in the comments, especially down below. How do you feel about Jonathan so far this season? Would you like to see Jonah be considered at the major league level at some point this year? Would you like Jonah to just get moved up to Syracuse and things go on from there? Whatever your thoughts are on the prospect of Tom, please make sure to relay everybody. And thank you guys kindly for doing exactly that. Because going back to Jonathan and the award that he won, I want to make sure I don't miss this, everybody. In 5 starts in June, Jonathan, and this was prior to his latest start, so he's now had, actually, no, I apologize, because his latest start was in July, but in 5 starts in June, Jonathan had a 3-0 record with a 0.95 ERA. Oh my God. And he struck out 43 batters. For the 2nd straight time, he has been named the Eastern League Pitcher of the Month. Again, the first time in Mets team history that's ever happened for a prospect there in the Eastern League to be awarded said award more than once in a season. So now, guys, going on from talking about Jonathan, and I love talking about Jonah, and I love talking about Brandon Sproat, we have a lot more that we got to break down, though, everybody. So not only do they look great, But we have to get into what is happening with guys like Jack Weniger in the minor leagues and all that stuff later on the show. But I first want to get into what is happening specifically with guys like Senga, Jesse Winker, and Manaea. So before we go ahead and break down all the positive news there, let's hear a quick word from today's amazing sponsor here at Moo. Hey Mets fans, if you love diving deep into the numbers like WAR or ERA, then you absolutely are going to love what today's video sponsor Moo brings to your investing game. Think Moneyball, but this time for your portfolio. I'm beyond excited to share that Moo, the proud trading platform of the New York Mets, is here to level up your investing. Moo is a global trading platform currently serving over 25 million users in markets like the United States, Canada, Singapore, and Japan. Whether you're just starting out or if you're a more seasoned trader, Moo's app and desktop platform offers commission-free trading on stocks, ETFs, and options, no contract fees either. So plus, you get premium tools, guys, whether it's going to be the institutional grade analytics, Morningstar research, and analyst ratings, all free for funded users. And right now, Moo is doubling down for Mets fans. Sign up through my exclusive link down below, make a qualifying deposit, and get up to, 60 free stocks, plus not one but two Mets Suite tickets. Not to mention, Moo customers can get free tickets to all Monday home games at Citi Field, and who knows, you may even see me at a game. And with zero commissions and zero contract fees on stock and ETF options, you keep more of your wins. Are you guys ready to trade smarter? Download Moo now and swing for the financial fences. And shout out once more to Moo for being an amazing sponsor here on the platform. Alrighty, folks, as you guys can see beside me, this is some of the very exciting news regarding our ace and Senga and Jesse Winker. So first of all, in case you guys didn't see, this was literally just this past day. Jesse Winker, first pitch he sees there for Syracuse after being moved up in his rehab, and he hits an absolute tank. What did Jesse Winker do during his rehab? Buddy was tearing the cover off the baseball. He had himself a towering opposite field RBI double that was just shy there of an Oppo bomb there when he was for the Cyclones. Then he hit a bomb for the Realm Ponies a couple days ago. And now, first game, first at bat right away there for Syracuse. Bang, sayonara, it's out of here. Jesse Winker is ready to return there from his grade 2 oblique strain that's had him out pretty much the past 2 months since he made one effing play in the outfield in St. Louis in that doubleheader against the Cardinals where the Mets were promptly swept. And it's very fitting that on the same exact day that we have a huge update regarding Jesse Winker to share, that's pretty much right around the same time that we're going to find out that Starling Marte may find himself on the injured list. For those that don't know, Starling Marte unfortunately had his knee barking that we saw in his final at bat, and then softly grounding out there and gingerly running down first, jogging off before exiting the ball game. Marte said that it is in fact the same knee flare up that he had the issue with in the past. They're going to get further imaging and then go on from there, but don't be shocked if you guys see an official announcement later on to today or tomorrow, maybe before we break down our next video or what have you, on Marte being placed on the injured list. The only positive that we could possibly find with Marte being put on the injured list is the following, and that's that while he's raked over this past north of 100 at bats in his platoon sample size, he's had over 300 average. He's been awesome, Marte, in his limited sample size, especially against lefties. Big three-hit game there against Max Fried this past day in their loss, but Marte being out, the positive is that with the All-Star break now just a week away, it's prime time to do so, right? It's going to suck if we don't have Marte for this entire week and the gauntlet on the road from the Orioles to the Royals, but the plus at least is that you will for certain have him back hopefully healthy without an issue after the All-Star break. So not that I ever wish injury or want to see it happen, but if it is going to happen, now is kind of the time for it to happen. So we'll see. We'll wait further word on Marte. But regarding Jesse Winker, the word regarding Jesse, everybody, is that Jesse's coming back. Jesse is back, baby. Jesse Winker is fully expected to be activated and return this Mets team there for their series in Baltimore beginning this Tuesday. So fantastic news, everybody. Let's get the hype going in the comments down below on Jesse, because in case you guys don't know how impactful Jesse can be, it's not just the bat where we know he can easily drive a baseball out whenever he feels like it, especially fastballs up in the zone. He eats them up for breakfast. I love Winker's approach at the plate when he's right in that DH platoon there, batting from the left side. I also love the idea of Winker coming back and bringing the vibes for this Mets team, because in case you guys don't know, Jesse Winker has an abundance amount of aura, and what that means is he's just a fun guy. He has vibes all the time, and he has stated time and time again that since becoming a New York Met, he has had more fun than he's ever had in his career. This has been the best part of his career ever. As mind you, he's been around for a decade or so in the major leagues. So Jesse Winker has been loving every second of being a Met. We love him being a Met, and we know how much he clutched up in the postseason at times for the Mets last year. Carlos Mendoza not playing Winker enough in the LCS is still living rent free in my head, but that's a discussion for a separate day. Shouldn't be discussed at all. Hopefully those mistakes don't happen again if the Mets can get back there this year. But Jesse Winker, he brings not only the power, his ability to go opposite field sometimes as well, but he brings the vibes. And that kind of clubhouse character is fantastic and is a guy that you love to hate if you're an opposing fan and a guy that you love to have if he's on your roster. We're fortunate to say that Jesse Winker is on the Mets. I'm looking forward to seeing him get back to being a clutch batter for this team because Jesse Winker, when the Mets traded for him last year, one thing that was very notable about him was his ability to hit with runners in scoring position. Let's see if Winker can get back to that hot bat that he was that we saw a year ago at times in those respective moments and clutch up in key situations, whether it's pinch hitting, laying the ball game, getting the start at DH, bang from the left side, whatever it may be. Jesse Winker and the vibes are coming back to Queens, or more, I should say, Camden Yards there, and Baltimore starting this Tuesday, everybody, so get ready for it. Along with Kodai Senga, after giving up a couple runs in his latest rehab outing, all the Mets cared about that we saw from a couple days ago as he pitched, if I'm not mistaken, for the Rummel Ponies, is that they just want to make sure he's healthy. And Kodai Senga is healthy, and he is expected to return this Mets team as soon as Friday or Saturday against the Kansas City Royals. I will be out of town during that series, everybody. So if you're wondering why is Wardy in a completely different location when I'm doing a live stream or a video breakdown on Kodai Senga's first start back from injury, that's why. Just a fair warning there, but we're still going to cover it. Be on the lookout as always. Kodai Senga, though, guys, we cannot wait to get our ace back in this rotation. To say that we missed him in itself has been an understatement as well. I think we've said understatement at least 10 times today. That's Wardy's word of the day. You can honestly do the counter and let me know in the comments down below. I apologize if it's been a little annoying. But as we continue on, Kodai Senga, guys, who had a sub-2 ERA, was dominant, was looking like a true Cy Young candidate yet again if it wasn't for his injury that derailed him there, has had him out for the past month plus. But Kodai Senga is returning. The best part, everybody, it doesn't just stop with Kodai Senga returning this Mets rotation. And we know how nails Kodai was. We know that by adding Kodai immediately back in this rotation, even if he gets roughed up a little bit there in Kansas City, we know how much of a force he is in this rotation for the weeks to come throughout the season. Now, guys, we also saw Sean Manaea throwing at Citi Field this past day. And that's important, guys, because Sean Manaea is expected to return this Mets rotation as soon as this Sunday, meaning that Manaea is expected to return right before the All-Star break. So barring changes, barring God forbid any setback, I'm knocking on wood because we know we've seen that happen with these guys one too many times already. The Simone Southpaw, who was fantastic for the Mets, especially from the second half on last year, making that arm slot change, looking more like Chris Sale with that nasty sweeper, change up, sink piece up high, you name it. I love everything that Sean Manaea brings to the table for this Mets team. He too has immaculate vibes. So what a great guy Sean Manaea is in all seriousness. But to get him back this Sunday is going to be absolutely vital. To get all these guys back right before the All-Star break is huge. So on one hand, you may be losing Charlie Marte, but on the other hand, you're gaining hopefully three very important players from one batter to two pitchers back in this rotation. And that completely changes the dynamic of the rotation, everybody. And one snap of the finger, you look at the Mets rotation and you say to yourself, it's one of the worst in baseball right now with all these injuries. Now you add Kodai and Manaea back for the Royals series, and it goes from looking ugly to, oh, okay, Kodai Senga, Clay Holmes. I'm doing this in no truly particular order. Kodai Senga, Clay Holmes, David Peterson, Sean Manaea, Frankie Montas. That's your five right there. That is something I'm not going to complain about nearly as much, even with the inconsistencies that may obviously find themselves happening. And let me do it one more time. Okay, Kodai Senga, David Peterson, Sean Manaea, Frankie Montas, Clay Holmes, and then we'll obviously wait to see when Tyler Miguel returns, as he's still working his way back there from the injured list. Paul Blackburn, obviously, as we know, is on the injured list. He's not coming back anytime soon. Jose Budo is on the injured list that we know with an illness, but he'll be back without an issue post All-Star break, so I'm not really concerned at all there. So that's positive, at least. Just unfortunately he went down with an illness, and that's that. But on the rotational front, everybody, they're getting their reinforcements back. But even with those reinforcements, that's a solid five. But you're still one more quality starter away that from, I think, giving us Mets fans a level of comfortability. And that's where if you add a Mitch Keller, if you add a Sandy Alcantara, if you add an Edward Cabrera, if you add one of the Diamondbacks, if they go full sell mode and you go crazy, maybe you land a Merrill Kelly or Zach Gallen. Maybe you go crazy, and if he's healthy down the stretch and you really want to consider him, even though I can see why you wouldn't right now, Pablo Lopez with the Twins. Maybe somehow, some way, the Brewers are still willing to give up Freddie Peralta because they know they're not going to lock him up a year from now. Whatever the case may be on the pitching front, we'll cover it from now up until the trade deadline, and we're going to be covering it all day the MLB trade deadline, folks. But the Mets are still at least one more starter away, if not more, even with their in-house options. And by bringing in one, it means that you do not have to rush any prospects, and the prospects can come up organically when the team truly feels that they're ready. Because if you add a true, say, a Mitch Keller, and then you have a six-man with that, it boxes out Tyler McGill right now, and it also gives you an opportunity to consider one of those prospects if, say, a guy goes down with injury, or say there's just inconsistencies going on. It makes things a little bit less of a pressure cooker situation than what David Stearns found himself in the past couple weeks, where everyone and their mother was injured on the rotational front, and you had to utilize a different reliever in their bullpen every day. No one was going deep in their starts. It was just a perfect storm, a true recipe for disaster. No longer, hopefully, will be the case once we get these guys back, everybody. But yeah, I think we can all agree. If you add one starter of quality via trade and have a healthy, productive Sean Manaea, hopefully a guy that's turning the corner for the better in Frankie Montas, not just health-wise, but more so productivity-wise than anything else. Kodai Senga, everyone else, who's going to be complaining about the rotation as much? I don't think I will. You guys let me know in the comments down below, what would be your comfortability level if the Mets get the best out of those 5 starters and add at least one true starter at the deadline of significance? If they can do that, if they can add a guy that can be anywhere from a 2 to a 5, if not an ace, because I'm not going to get my hopes up there, I think the Mets are going to put themselves in good standing for what will be thrown their way for the remainder of the season. One, their in-house options, 2, their on-roster current options. They're on the 40-man. So that's what I have to say about that, everybody. But those aren't the only guys that we have positive updates to get into when we talk about these guys in rehab. We also have a key reliever to get into, everybody, because as you guys can see here, ignore the fact that we got Jonathan showing right now as I'm having Sean Manaea throw. Let's pull up something separate here for each and every one of you, which is the following, everybody. We do know that there is one man for this bullpen that is in dire need of returning, not only for himself, but for us Mets fans as too. We need to see the one and only Brooks Raley back with the squad. And as we take a look right here, everybody, Brooks Raley in his latest rehab outing that we saw back on 4th of July was an absolute dog yet again. These are the total rehab outing numbers for Brooks Raley so far this season, not just his latest. So in total, Raley has 6.2 scroll innings of relief, all the way from Port St. Lucie all the way up now to AAA Syracuse in the minor leagues. He's been at every level now, and he's dominated every single one. In the latest one for Syracuse, he went 1 inning of 1 hit, 0 earned run, 1 walk, 1 strikeout ball on 21 pitches to 12 strikes. He threw the sweeper 67% of the time, and the sinker topped out right around 92, everybody. So now we have 6.2 truly shut down innings for Brooks Raley at the rehab front. In case you guys are wondering, when is Raley going to return? Well, as Carlos Mendoza has stated himself, Raley's expected to return this Mets team post All-Star break. No reason to rush him. We know how vital he's going to be for this bullpen. If something happens and he gets called up sooner, then awesome. I'm not going to complain, but I'm with the current expectation that Raley will not return until immediately after the All-Star break. Then the Mets will get their crafty, dominant southpaw back in their bullpen yet again, because in case you guys don't know just how good Brooks Raley has been, let me enlighten you just once more. Because again, Brooks Raley is one of my favorite relievers that the Mets have to offer. Not just because he's a crafty and dominant southpaw, something that's hard to come by, especially after A.J. Minter and Danny Young's season just died before it even began, basically, it felt. But when you look at Raley in particular, this is a guy that's no slouch. He is a starter turned reliever, especially because he dominated as a starter in many years in the KBO. Came back to the States there after he was initially with the Astros, then he was with the Rays and had success. And then Billy Upward a couple years ago traded Kashawn Askew for him. And that was honestly one of the trades with the Rays that I'm not complaining about in hindsight, because I really, really like that we made it happen. But let's look at the Raley stats here, everybody. Let's make sure that they are accurate. They should be. Those are Brooks Raley's 2023 numbers, so that is not the graphic that I was trying to show. I apologize. You guys don't see it yet. I'm just trying to pull it up here from the stuff that I already have jotted down. Let's see, Raley stats. Is this the one I'm looking for? That isn't the one I'm looking for either. So the last Raley stat log that I'm looking for has to be this one, Wardy. Let's go ahead and click it and see if Wardy is right here or not. And he is correct. All right, guys. As you guys can see here, Brooks Raley's numbers are fantastic, right? And he's not a free agent anymore. The Mets signed him to a 2-year deal since then, but I made this graphic going back to this past offseason because he hasn't pitched in Major League Baseball since the beginning of the 2024 season. But in the beginning of 2024, Brooks Raley won 8 dominant scrolls outings for the Mets without a problem. Even when everything else was in flux, the Mets couldn't get a win their first number of games, right? They were curb stomped at home against the Milwaukee Brewers, among others. Raley was constantly consistent though. And then we see his career numbers rock solid, and his 2023 season with the Mets was tremendous because he was nails for them over that stretch. And actually, let's just go ahead and pull up the Brooks Raley 2023 numbers in case you guys don't recall them. I'm going to use actually one of my older graphics for this one from a hot man ago, but it still holds true, especially in case of Raley and what he did for the Mets and what was a truly not breakout season for him, but a breakout for the Mets in 2023 in the sense that they did not get anything else going, but the one thing that they got going right was Brooks Raley on the pitching end. He and David Robertson were the key standouts, but as you guys see down there, and ignore the contract because that was his previous deal with the Mets, 2023 stats, 66 games, 54.2 innings, 2.8 ERA, a 3.4 expected ERA, a 3.93 SI ERA, and a 1.26 whip. Fantastic numbers for Brooks Raley that we saw going back to the 2023 season. So I can't wait to see this man return the bullpen. It will hopefully make things a little bit less hectic for David Stearns to figure out what he needs to do to add this bullpen at the deadline. But I still think the Mets need to add a truly high leverage lefty option, regardless of how good Raley is, because Raley doesn't throw gas the way that Aroldis Chapman can. And if the Red Sox are truly going to be selling at the deadline, that Aroldis Chapman is at the top of my list and probably your list too. If you want a dominant shutdown guy to be a setup man for Edwin Diaz. Name me a better 1-2 punch of a bullpen duo in Major League Baseball if you had Chapman and Diaz at their best. Oh, sorry, I already named it for you because there are no better duos in the game than what that certainly would be. I had a lot to say about Chapman. You guys know I do. I broke it down on the platform over the past couple weeks in separate videos. Check it out as we'll talk about Chapman more leading up to the deadline. But going on now, guys, from talking about Brooks Raley, let's now expand more on what is happening with the Mets in the minor leagues, because as we know, there are a lot of positive things happening for the Mets on the farm front. And let's share what exactly those positives are, because outside of guys like Jonathan looking fantastic, we saw Jack Weniger have himself a day, baby. As you guys can see here, let's pull up right down here the highlights from Jack Weniger. He was absolutely dominant in his latest outing there that we saw in the minor leagues. For those that don't know, Weniger has been fantastic for the Mets, for the Rumble Ponies. He went 6 scoreless innings of just 2 hit, 1 run ball, 0 earned run ball, 2 walks, and 11 strikeouts. He threw 84 pitches and had 53 strikes, and he generated 21 swings and misses, guys. His fastball was up to 97 there that we saw this past Sunday, and he is looking locked and loaded and ready to go to get that Syracuse Mets call. Weniger, again, is just one of so many different pitchers that have been dominating the Mets minor leagues so far this season. And as we could take a look at this graphic from TJ Stats, we see here now 16 games and 81 innings this season. Weniger's at a 2.76 ERA at just over 1 whip, a K to walk ratio of 24.2%, which is fantastic, at a 30% K rate and just a 6% walk rate, 33.1 whip percentage and a 64% strikeout percentage. Buddy is an absolute dog. That is an elite K to walk ratio right there, as TJ states himself, everybody. And Weniger is yet another guy that we will not be shocked when we see him inevitably get moved up to Syracuse before the season is over. Also, shout out to Daniel Wexler that you guys can see here on X. Wexler finds out things before the average man does there when it comes to Mets minor league reporting. And Wexler did report this past day that Jonathan Santucci has looked fantastic as a southpaw option there that we have seen there for the Brooklyn Cyclones. Just got moved up to the Rumble Ponies along with RJ Gordon there. Mets prospects are continuing to move up big time that we've seen in the minor leagues. I'm loving to see that as well, guys. As we expand more as to what we're getting there from Santucci, shout out to Joe DeMeo there of SNY. Does a great job. Shout out to Joe, follow friend of the platform as well, who broke down Santucci's latest start there, his final start for Brooklyn before he got moved up to the Rumble Ponies. 6 innings of 0 earned run ball, 3 walks, 4 hits, 9 strikeouts. He had 81 pitches, 54 strikes, and generated a whopping 20 swing and misses. And since May 3rd in 11 appearances, spanning 55.2 innings, Santucci has a fantastic 2.26 ERA with 61 strikeouts. That is fantastic. I also want to give a shout out real quick to Angry Mike on X. If you guys don't know Angry Mike, a great follow for Mets prospects in particular, has great breakdowns and has really helped inform me, especially with how Jonathan has performed against certain batters that we've seen at the minor league level, how productive he has been. Shout out to Angry Mike if you see this. I appreciate the work that you've been doing on X, my friend. The same way I appreciate what we have been seeing in the minor leagues from other guys, including guys, and you guys can see this, shout out to Mets prospects group. They know who they are. BK Fan 09 on X. Giovanni Rodriguez. Remember Giovanni, guys? He was a top IFA signing for the Mets just over a year ago or so. Giovanni was injured to start the season, sadly, but finally he's healthy and he's looking good. Had himself a double in his first at-bat there against the Mets in the DSL League. And that's important because Giovanni Rodriguez is seen by many as one of the top IFA prospects that the Mets have, and he may very well be one of the most heralded prospects in the organization within just the next couple of years. But he's not the only one, everybody. Another guy that's been balling out big time, that Angry Mike shout out big time, is Mr. Elian Pena. As you guys can see here, the top IFA signing in Elian Pena that the Mets made that we saw back in January. Look at what Pena did, everybody. He is officially tearing the cover off the baseball. He's 17 years old, lefty-lefty matchup, and what does Buddy do right here? Oh, you know, he just goes ahead and he casually gets set to rip himself some nukes. Look at this bomb by Elian Pena, 17 years of age, and he is looking fantastic, guys. He's going to be, without question, the Mets' top prospect before we know it. He has a .482 batting average that we've seen over the stretch going back to 4th of July. Listen, this his numbers since June 21st, 13 to 27, and has hit safely in 7 of his 9 games. A .482 batting average, a .611 on base, 5 doubles, 3 home runs, 9 walks, 13 RBIs, 11 runs scored, a 25% walk rate, and he had a 3-homer game, mind you, with 8 RBIs during that stretch. A 3-homer game, kind of a big deal. 4 multi-hit games as well. What are you not getting in Elian Pena right now, guys? Again, that is why he found himself the Mets minor leaguer player of the week there going back to the end of June, because he had himself just an absurd 600 batting average with 17 total bases and 9 RBIs with a 2400 OPS. Kind of good if you guys ask me. Also, one more prospect thing I want to share, which was a great news. The Mets signed Matteo Morelli. For those that don't know, is an Italian pitching prospect. The Mets signed at the young age of 19 there out of Italy. Really, really cool. This is the first time in Mets team history that they've ever made a signing like this. They actually signed an amateur player there out of Europe to this degree. Hopefully we see more of a trend like this, because I love nothing more than for the Mets to expand their scouting beyond what we usually see there when it comes to, you know, the IFA period. When you look at, you know, the Caribbean, especially when you get guys from Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. Also, you get players from Venezuela, you know, you're naturally going to be getting players, you know, even to a degree from Nicaragua, from all over the place. And that's really cool. Same way, it's really, really cool to actually sign someone from Italy. So shout out to them. Love to see that. Hopefully we see more moves like that. We did see back on 4th of July some unfortunate prospect news I meant to share, which is that Zach Thornton, who's been dominating, we know, the southpaw there in the minor leagues. He was placed on the 7-day injury list, unfortunately. And we saw TJ Shook, who's had a very good relief season there, get moved up to Syracuse as that corresponding move or so at the time. Or I shouldn't even say corresponding, but just the move happened. Regardless, everybody, that is what I believe we have there to break down on the minor league front. The only other thing that I had to share is I know Ryan Clifford had himself a big bomb that he hit himself just the other day. And here is actually the Ryan Clifford home run. As a matter of fact, absolute tank there for the Rumble Ponies. Clifford is just one of many weapons that the Rumble Ponies have this season. And between the Rumble Ponies, the Cyclones, and to a degree the Syracuse Mets, there's just an abundance of so many great talents to choose from that I've been so happy to watch and follow throughout the course of the 162 this season. But folks, I think that's going to conclude our latest Mets breakdown here. A lot of reports to break down, and we had only so much time to do so. I apologize for this being north of an hour long, but I wasn't lying. We had something to talk about the entire step of the way. So I hope you guys enjoyed our latest video breakdown. If you did, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe on your way out, and let us know all your key thoughts and reactions in the comments down below to what we had to break down today. Be on the lookout, as we will either have more content either dropping later on today, or, you know, that might not happen now given how late this video is dropping versus what I initially wanted to, or we may have content for certain dropping early tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that, everybody. Thank you again so much for watching, and as always, no matter what, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out, folks. Have a great one.